It is a Wednesday afternoon in the first week of August, the kind of afternoon where you walk out to get the mail and the air hits you like a wall before you even reach the porch steps. The thermometer nailed to the fence post reads 101 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside your house, your central air conditioner has been running since before you woke up. It has not cycled off once. The vents are blowing. The compressor outside is humming so loud your neighbor can probably hear it from his driveway. And when you pull up your utility account on your phone, you see a number that makes you set the phone face down on the counter. $311. That is your projected bill for this month alone. Last August, it was $260. The August before that, $218. It goes up every year, and every year they tell you it is the hottest summer on record, and every year you believe them, because it keeps being true. Here is the thing I want you to sit with. The farmhouse I am standing in right now does not have a central air conditioner. It never has. My father did not have one. His father did not have one. The house was built in 1891, and it has stood through 130 summers, including summers as bad as the one burning outside your window right now. And the family inside has always been comfortable, not barely surviving, comfortable, sleeping soundly, working through the afternoons, eating full meals at the table, without a single dollar going to an electric company for cooling, ever. What I am going to show you today is a complete system, not one trick, not a novelty, a complete, layered, interlocking set of methods that work together the way the parts of a well-built machine work together, each one making the others more effective. By the time I walk you through all of it, you will understand not just what to do, but why each piece works, and you will never look at a summer electric bill the same way again. My name is Amos Miller. I am Amish, and I farm in Holmes County, Ohio. I want to share with you today what my family has known for 6 generations, the full, old farmhouse cooling system, and not 1 watt of electricity required for any of it. Before I get into it, there is something I want to say. Plainly, the old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I put the whole of it into a book you can find at amosmillershop.com. Everything that goes into running a home the old way, the food, the preservation, the water, the cooling, the heating, all of it gathered in one place. If that is something you want, it is there. I will not bring it up again. Now, the system. 7 methods, each one distinct, each one additive. Let me start with the one that changes everything else, because until you understand this one, none of the others will make full sense. Your house is not a box. It is a thermal mass. The walls, the floors, the ceiling, the wooden frame, the plaster, the stone or brick, every material in the structure of your home absorbs heat during the day and releases it at night. Modern houses are built light and thin, which means they absorb heat fast, and they release it fast too, which is actually useful if you know how to take advantage of it. The old farmhouses were built heavy, stone, and thick plaster, and heavy timber, which means they absorbed heat slowly and released it slowly, acting as a natural temperature buffer. Either way, the principle is the same, and the method to work with it is the same. You do not fight the thermal mass. You use it, you load it with cool at night, and you protect that cool during the day. This is the night cool and day seal rhythm, and it is the foundation the entire system builds on. Every clear night, in summer, even in the worst heat waves, the temperature drops. In Holmes County, even in August, the air at 11 o'clock at night is in the low 70s or upper 60s on most nights, sometimes lower. That cool night air is free. It is delivered to your doorstep at no charge every single night, and most American homeowners sleep right through it with the windows shut and the AC running. At sundown, you open every window in the house. Ground floor windows on opposite sides to create a cross draft, second floor windows, attic vents if you have them. Every opening you can make, you open it. You let the cool night air move through the structure for the entire night. By 5 in the morning, the walls of the house are cool to the touch. The floor is cool under your bare feet. The air inside is 10 to 15 degrees cooler than it was at 6 o'clock the evening before. Then, at sunrise, before the sun has had any chance to begin heating, you close everything. Every window shut, every blind drawn on south and west, facing glass, every shade pulled, every curtain closed. You seal the cool in, and you lock the heat out. The house will hold that cool for most of the day. It does not hold it perfectly, no house does, but it slows the rise dramatically. A house started at 68 degrees at 6 a.m. will reach 80 degrees by 4 in the afternoon, even on a 100-degree day, if you have sealed it properly and done the other things I am about to describe. A house that never captured the night cool and never sealed at dawn will be 88 or 90 inside by noon. That is the difference between the night cool day seal and skipping it. The cost of this method is zero. You need a phone alarm for sunrise and the habit of checking the windows twice a day, nothing else. The second method is the one that works while the night cool rhythm is working, and they stack directly on top of each other. The attic is the enemy. Most American homeowners think of their attic as storage space, a place where holiday decorations and old suitcases live. What the attic actually is, in an unmanaged house, is a furnace. The roof absorbs direct summer sunlight all day long. The wood beneath the roof gets hot enough on a clear August afternoon to blister paint. And because most modern attics are sealed tight in the name of energy efficiency, that heat has nowhere to go. It builds. By 2 in the afternoon, the floor of your sealed attic is 140 degrees or higher, and every room directly below that attic floor is being baked from above all night long, even after the sun has set, because the wood is still radiating stored heat downward for hours. The old farmhouses never had this problem because they never sealed their attics. The gable vents were kept open. The roofline breathed. Hot air rose out of the peak, while cooler air was drawn in from the soffits below. The attic never built up heat the way a sealed one does, because the air was always moving through it. Go look at your gable vents right now. If you can, go look before you do anything else I describe today. What you will find in most American homes built after 1980 is one of 3 things: vents that are clogged with insulation blown up against them from inside, vents that have been painted over and sealed shut, or vents that have been deliberately foamed closed by a well-meaning contractor who was following bad advice. Clear them. If they are clogged, dig the insulation back 6 inches from the vent opening. If they are painted shut, score the paint and open the louvers. If they have been foamed, cut the foam out. Then, and this is the part my grandfather taught me when I was 11 years old, and I have never forgotten it, staple a piece of fine aluminum mesh, the kind they sell for window screen repair, across the inside of each vent opening. 1/4 inch mesh keeps out bats and squirrels and wasps. Cost about $3 for enough to do both gables. With clear, open gable vents and open soffits below, your attic will begin breathing the way it was designed to. The temperature at the attic floor on a 100-degree day drops from 140 degrees in a sealed attic to around 100 to 110 in a properly ventilated one. That is 30 to 40 degrees less heat radiating down into your living space all night. Combined with the night cool method, you now have a house that is capturing cool air at night and refusing to cook itself during the day. These two things together, for the cost of a roll of mesh and a phone alarm, will cut your AC usage by 40% or more. The third method is the one that works on the outside of the house before heat ever gets in, and it is the one that pays forward for years. Sun hitting your exterior walls is the primary source of daytime heat gain in any home. Not the outdoor air temperature, the sun itself. Direct solar radiation hitting the west wall of your house in the afternoon delivers more heat energy into that wall than an entire afternoon of warm breeze. Block the sun before it hits the wall, and the wall never heats up. Pennsylvania Dutch farmhouses were always positioned and planted with this in mind. Tall deciduous trees on the south and west sides of the house, wide roof overhangs, and deep front porches facing south. Climbing grapevines or hop vines on the west-facing walls. Trellised plants trained across south windows. These are not decorations, they are engineering. A single mature shade tree on the southwest corner of a house blocks the most brutal afternoon sun from hitting the wall and windows that catch the worst of it. University research on passive cooling in residential buildings consistently finds that proper shading of south and west exposures reduces summer cooling loads by 25 to 40%. On the average American cooling bill, that is $200 to $300 per summer saved by a tree that also makes the yard more beautiful and costs nothing to run once it is planted. You will not see the full benefit this summer from a tree you plant today, but in 3 years the shade will be real, and in 10 years it will be doing more cooling work than any piece of equipment you could buy. In the short term, an exterior awning over a west or south window does the same job immediately. Exterior blinds or solar screens on those exposures block 80% of solar heat before it passes through the glass. The sequence matters. Outside first, shade the wall, shade the window, and the heat never enters. Inside, blinds and curtains help, but they are a second line of defense after the sun has already passed through the glass and deposited its heat in the room. The old farmers understood this because they could feel it. They did not have energy auditors or building science degrees. They just noticed that the rooms on the west side of the house got hot in the afternoon, and they planted things in between. The fourth method works inside the house while the outside methods are doing their work, and it is the one most people forget they have. Every house sits on the ground. The ground is cool. Everywhere in the United States, the soil temperature at a depth of 4 feet stays between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. In January and in August, the earth holds steady at 55 degrees below your feet, while the air above it swings 80 degrees in either direction. A basement or cellar built into that earth is 55 degrees in a stone foundation, 65 to 70 in a modern poured concrete basement. Either way, cooler than any room above it by 20 to 30 degrees on a hot August day. My grandmother used her cellar not just for food storage, but for living space during the heat of the afternoon. From noon until 3 o'clock on the hottest days of the year, she was in the cellar, snapping beans or shelling corn or mending, doing the quiet work in the cool place while the sun did its worst on the walls above her. The men came in from the fields at midday, ate their dinner, and rested 40 minutes in the cellar before going back out. If you have a basement you are using for storage and nothing else, you are sitting on the equivalent of a free, air-conditioned room. Set up a chair down there. Put a table. Move the afternoon activities underground during the worst of the heat. You stop asking your AC to cool a house full of people generating body heat in the hottest rooms. You only need to cool the sleeping spaces at night. That one shift alone reduces AC consumption by 30 to 50% on hot afternoons. The fifth method is the one that creates active cooling rather than just managing heat, and it is the most directly powerful thing I will show you today. It is evaporative cooling, and it is 4,000 years old. When water evaporates, it pulls heat from the surrounding air. Every gram of water that changes from liquid to vapor absorbs approximately 540 calories of heat energy from the air around it. This is not folk medicine. This is thermodynamics, and it has not changed since water was water. The Egyptians were hanging wet reeds across doorways in 2500 BC to cool their rooms. The Persians built 30-foot wind towers that pulled desert air across wet earth and delivered it into palace rooms 30 degrees cooler than the outside. The Pennsylvania German farmwives hung wet linen in the kitchen window on hot afternoons and kept a bucket of cool well water nearby to re-wet it every few hours. What I use today is the same method built into a slightly more refined form that provides continuous cooling for 12 to 24 hours without needing attention. 2 unglazed terracotta pots. One larger, one smaller, both without any glaze or sealant on the outside. The smaller pot must fit inside the larger one with at least an inch of clearance all the way around. At any hardware store or garden center, you can find these for $3 to $5 each. Coarse sand from the hardware store, about 10 pounds, fills the gap between the two pots. You plug the drainage hole in the outer pot with a small piece of cloth. Place the inner pot inside the outer and fill the space between them completely with coarse sand, tamped down firmly. Then you pour cold water slowly into the sand until it will absorb no more. Set a flat plate or piece of wood over the top opening and drape a wet cotton cloth over the entire unit. Place it near an open window where incoming air passes across it. What happens is this. The water in the sand evaporates slowly outward through the walls of the unglazed outer pot. That evaporation continuously draws heat out of the inner pot and the air directly around the unit. The inner pot stays 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the surrounding air for as long as the sand remains moist, which is typically 12 to 24 hours per refilling. In a 10 by 12 foot room with good cross ventilation, a single unit like this drops the ambient temperature 8 to 12 degrees. 2 units placed on opposite sides of the room produce the full 15-degree drop that researchers at the University of Arizona documented in their 1986 passive cooling tower study. And the inner pot, because it stays at 55 to 60 degrees, doubles as a natural cold storage for vegetables, milk, and fruit. You are getting a cooler and an air cooler from 2 clay pots and a bag of sand. Total cost, around $12. No moving parts, no electricity, no maintenance, beyond re-wetting, every 6 to 8 hours. The 6th method is one I want you to understand because it does not cost money and it cannot be bought, which means nobody will ever sell it to you. It is how you cook and where you cook in summer, and it changes the heat load on your house more dramatically than almost anything else on this list. An Amish farmstead has always had a summer kitchen. It is a small separate building behind the main house, usually one room with a wood stove and a window on the opposite wall. The whole purpose of it is to move the cooking heat outside the main house. During summer, when you bake bread in your kitchen in July, the oven runs at 375 degrees for an hour and dumps all of that heat into your kitchen. Your AC then has to remove it. You are paying twice, once to bake the bread and again to cool the room the baking heated. A summer kitchen or an outdoor cooking setup severs that loop entirely. The cooking heat never enters the house. The house temperature never rises. The AC never has to compensate. I understand that most of you do not have a separate summer building, and I am not asking you to build one. I am asking you to do the simpler version of the same principle. Cook outdoors on a grill or a propane burner for as many summer meals as you reasonably can. Cook in the morning when the house is still cool from the night, rather than at 6 in the evening when the house is already at its hottest. Use a slow cooker on the back porch if you have an outlet there. Batch cook on the coolest day of the week and eat cold or reheated food through the hot days. Every meal cooked outdoors is roughly 3,000 to 5,000 BTUs of heat that never entered your house and never had to be removed by your cooling system. Over a full summer of cooking, that adds up to real money and a real temperature difference. The seventh method is the one that works while you sleep, and it is the oldest of all of them because it requires nothing and costs nothing and is the most purely old-fashioned thing I will say to you today. Sleep on the lowest floor of your house in summer. The physics is simple. Hot air rises. The hottest room in your house in August is the second floor bedroom directly under the roof. The coolest sleeping space is the ground floor or the basement. My grandfather slept in the front room on the main floor in summer and moved back upstairs after the first frost. His grandfather did the same. Before mechanical cooling existed, every family in America with more than one story knew to move their sleeping downstairs in summer because upstairs was not survivable in a heat wave. The second floor in a house without AC or ventilation, even a well-ventilated one, runs 8 to 12 degrees hotter than the first floor on a hot night. Moving your sleeping space to the ground floor, even temporarily, even with a cot or a camp mattress, drops the temperature you are sleeping in by nearly 10 degrees without touching a thermostat. Combined with open windows and the night breeze moving through the house, a ground floor summer sleeping setup is comfortable in temperatures that would make the upstairs bedroom miserable, even with a window unit running. This is not sacrifice. This is the same thing the old families did because it worked, and it worked because the physics that makes hot air rise has not changed. Now, I want you to see how these 7 methods add up together, because this is the thing nobody shows you when they sell you a $12,000 central AC installation or a $3,000 mini split. Each one of these methods reduces the cooling load. The shade on the west wall means less heat enters the house. Less heat entering means the night cool lasts longer into the afternoon. The cool attic means the ceiling is not radiating heat downward, so the trapped night cool lasts even longer. The evaporative cooler drops the room temperature directly. The summer cooking moves heat generation outside entirely. The cellar retreat removes the family from the hottest zone during the worst hours. The ground floor sleeping puts people in the coolest spot. Every method makes every other method more effective because they are all attacking the same problem from different angles. In dry climates, all 7 methods working together produce a house that is 20 to 25 degrees cooler than the outdoor air during the hottest part of the afternoon, with no electricity, no machinery, no monthly bill. In more humid climates like Ohio, where I am, the combined effect is somewhat smaller, 12 to 18 degrees of difference, but that is still the difference between a house that needs no cooling assistance and a house that needs it desperately. Holmes County gets humid in August, I know that, and still, the house I am standing in holds 75 degrees on a day when the thermometer outside reads 97, not because of anything mechanical, because of these 7 things working together. The reason your parents and grandparents probably knew some of these methods and you may not is not a mystery. It is the same pattern I see in every traditional skill that has faded in the last 70 years. The moment a thing can be replaced by something you pay for monthly, the knowledge of the free version quietly disappears from the general conversation. The HVAC industry in America generates well over $200 billion a year. There is no version of that business model that profits from teaching homeowners to open their windows at the right time, plant a tree on the west side, and build a $12 clay pot cooler. The knowledge did not vanish because it stopped working. It vanished because it stopped generating revenue for anyone. The physics of evaporating water has not changed since the Egyptian palace builders figured it out in the time of the pharaohs. The way cool night air behaves in a house has not changed since my great-great-grandfather built this farmhouse in 1891. The only thing that changed is who profits from your knowing it. And when the answer became nobody, the teaching stopped. So, here is what I want you to do. Tonight, before you go to bed, open every window in the house at sundown and set a phone alarm for 30 minutes before sunrise. Do that one thing this week and watch what your house feels like tomorrow afternoon compared to today. This weekend, take a flashlight into your attic and check your gable vents. Clear them if they are blocked. Install mesh if they are not already screened. If you have a west-facing wall getting afternoon sun, look at what shade you can add. A curtain on the outside, an awning, a trellis with climbing plants, any of those things. Then go to the hardware store and spend $12 on 2 unglazed terracotta pots and a bag of coarse sand. Build the evaporative cooler and put it in the room that runs hottest in your house. Tell me in the comments below what your August electric bill looks like and which of these 7 methods you are going to try first. And if your grandmother had her own way of keeping the house cool that I have not covered, the damp cotton hung from the ceiling fan, the stone floor she made everyone walk on barefoot, the specific window sequence she opened in the evening, share it. That kind of knowledge is exactly what gets lost when nobody writes it down, and it is exactly why I keep recording. I read every single one. Next time, since today we covered how to cool the whole house without electricity, I am going to show you how my family keeps food cold all summer in a root cellar built with nothing but clay, sand, and the slope of a hill. It holds 54 degrees in January and in August, both, with no machinery, no insulation in the modern sense, and no electricity. The same ground temperature that makes your basement cool in summer can be made to work year-round with the right build, and nobody will show you how to do it. I will. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Until then, open the windows at sundown, close them at sunrise, shade the west wall, build the clay pot cooler, and remember that the people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember. That is how the careful old folks kept their families comfortable through 130 summers in this house. That is how it is still done in any home that remembers.